Hey guys, today I'm going to be reconstructing my 2367 North American Champ FMC meme. So the scrambles and all the reconstructions will be in the description. So this is the first scramble. I got a 22 on it, which is pretty good for me and was also the best result on that scramble. So the EO count on the scramble is 446 and I decided to do red-orange front EO. The bad edges are here, 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 and here. So I did EO by doing UD F prime, R prime. So this EO is pretty good for in terms of DR because you have this line here, you have two partial lines there, pretty nice. But if you do a Z prime, you'll see that it's already set up to 4A4C, which can be reduced to one move. So I decided to switch and look for continuations from there, and what I noticed was on inverse, I could do an L2 to kind of set up this, and next I want to connect this corner over here while moving the bad ear layer edges on one face. So I did that by doing F prime R2. So I have this now, and to finish off DR, D2 to make the two lines, F prime D. So this is a 10 move DR, and if you look, it has good corners. So first thing I decided to look for was HDR. So I noticed that if you did B prime, it was set to 2E4C. And this 2E4C can be easily set up to the trigger by doing R2 to make the line, U2, B, D2, B prime. So this is a 16 move HDR, and it actually has a 6 move finish, but I couldn't see it on normal. So I switched to the inverse scramble, and I was able to find the finish. So I made this 2x2 using this square by doing B2, U2, and then I made a 2x2x3 using this pair by doing R2, D2, R2, then just F2 to finish. Alright, so this is the second scramble, which I got a 24 on. So I decided to do orange-red front again, and the bad edges are here, 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 and here. So you could do a 3-move EO on this, but this 4-move EO gave me a better continuation. B, D prime, F2, R. So if you look with the green top, this is already set up to 4E4C and it's pretty nice. So you already have this line here, but you have this corner in the wrong spot. So you can do a U2 to move that corner in its right spot. And next I want to finish the line while moving the bad E layer edges on one face. So you can do that with B prime, L2 to make the two lines, and then to set them all up there, F, B2, U. So this is another 10 move DR, and it has good corners because this corner case can be solved with R2U, R2U prime R2, or any variation of that. So I decided to look for HDR, and I noticed that if you did an F right here, it would set up the 2E4C, and this 2E4C is 2 more moves to the trigger. So you can do an L2 to move these headlights up here and make this line, and do a D2 to set up to the trigger. And instead of doing the normal trigger like that, I decided to do the trigger like this, F prime, L2, F prime. So this is another 16 move HDR. I wasn't able to find a finish off this, but I noticed that doing B2, L2, D2 would solve corners and leave me with the 2E, 2E, 3E in 19 moves. which isn't the greatest skeleton, but considering it's HTR, it will probably leave me with something good. So at this spot right here, the edges are in this position, and as you see, the 2E2E are set up to a 6 mover. So in order to cancel moves, I did an alternate 6 mover, which canceled 3. So the alg I did was an L2, B2, L2, F2, R2, F2. So that solves the 2E2E and leaves me with the 3E. And in this spot right here, 3E looks like this. So doing U, B, B2, U prime, D, L2, D prime cancels 2. And so that leaves me with the initial result of 26, which isn't great, but I noticed that there are a couple places where I could reduce my solution down a couple moves. So that's what I did. So this week's sequence right here can be shortened by 1 move. So if you undo that sequence, you can actually solve in just 5 moves. F2, R2, F2, L2, F prime. So that reduces the solution by 1 move, which is a 25. However, after doing this shorten, it leaves you with this sequence, which can also be shortened. So this 8 move sequence can be solved in 7 just by doing F prime, R2, F, U2, F2, L2, B2. That reduced my solution by 1 again and left me with the final result of 24. So this is the 3rd scramble, which I got a 25 on. So I did green front EO, and the bad edges are here, 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 and here. So you can do EO pretty easily here in 3 moves by doing U prime D B. And this EO isn't the greatest for DR, but I noticed that if you did a Z prime, these 2 E layer edges are already correctly oriented for DR. And what I decided to do was to orient some corners to hopefully reduce to 4A4C or something like that. So I noticed that you have these 2 opposite headlights, I don't know what you call them. You have this right here. And you also have these 2 corners like this. So you can orient 3 of the corners by doing L, R2, D. And that leaves you with 4A4C. And this is a pretty nice 4A4C because you already have 1 line done. And you have this partial line right here. So you can do an R prime, L prime, and then to finish off this line, do a U2. And then to finish off DR, L prime D. This is an 11 move DR. It doesn't have the greatest corners, but I played around with corners a little bit. And I noticed that if you did L prime F2, it would leave you with good corners. So from here, I decided to go ahead and solve the corners and be left with an edge skeleton. So I did R2, D2, then L prime, D2, F2 to solve corners while solving the E layer edges, and then R prime. So this is 2E, 4E in 19 moves, which normally isn't a skeleton that I would go for, but I was running out of time and the insertions ended up working out. So in this spot right here, this is what the edges look like. And if you notice, you have this edge that needs to be put right here and these 2 edges that need to be swapped. So what you can do here is do like an M2U2, M2U2 to solve them. So that would look like F2B2U2, F2B2D2. And that cancels 4 and left me with 21 to 3E. So in one of these last spots right here, you have this, and the move before is B prime, and you can solve this 3E by doing B, F prime, U2, F, B prime, R2. And that canceled 2 and left me with a 25 move solution and the North American champion mean.